We're going to get going in just a second because we have a packed agenda here in this briefing. I want to thank everyone. Here we go. I want to thank everyone for coming. Please take a seat, grab a bagel, grab a coffee. My name is Gail Mook. I'm the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Bicycle Coalition. We are here today, obviously, to talk about the traffic safety camera legislation that is making its way through this building. We have a very packed agenda for this briefing. There will be discussions from advocates, from municipal officials, from police chiefs, from legislators, and from folks who are personally affected by traffic violence. The goal for this briefing is to educate staffers who are here about the bill. We have one-pagers, we have information, and the goal is to really get this. So grateful for your individual pursuits to talk to your reps and senators to make this issue matter to them as well. I want to specifically thank the State House staff who's helping us pull this together, from Senator Brownsberger and Rep. Owens' team. Round of applause for having this awesome room. Thank you. And for the coalition of advocates who are working with the Families for Safe Streets, Transportation for Massachusetts, Walk Massachusetts, Livable Streets Alliance, MassBike, Boston Cyclists Union, Families for Safe Streets, the list goes on and on. We are also going to hear from AAA Northeast, and so the point of me standing here and saying all this is to really lean into this as a coalition. This is not necessarily a bicycling forward bill. This is a traffic safety bill, and we know that traffic violence affects everybody across this Commonwealth. We hear it at MassBike when we work statewide from every single municipality. What's one thing that we can do to make bicycling better, to make your lives better? It's to calm traffic that's out there. We know that traffic safety cameras are a proven tool to do this. I'm going to pass this off to the lead sponsors for this bill, Senator Will Brownsberger and Rep. Steve Owens, to kick us off.
Okay, thank you, Galen. Thanks to everybody for coming here. My name is Steve Owens. I'm the lead House sponsor for the traffic safety camera legislation. I want to thank, we've got representatives and staff from many House offices in the room today, so thank you all for coming. We also have Representative Sean Garbely here. Thanks for coming, Sean. And I know we got a packed agenda, so I won't speak for long, but I just want to say two things. One, days like today, I think about in Watertown a few years ago outside the Cunniff Elementary School. A mother was loading her two children into her car. Now, if you have two children who are both require car seats, you may have been in the position where, yeah, you can get one in on the curbside, but you are vulnerable on the other side when you're trying to get your other child into that car seat. And she was clipped by a speeding car going past her in that school zone. So, I think about that as a reason why we need this kind of automated enforcement. If there were speed cameras, if people had been trained to find that they would be penalized for speeding in that area, that may not have happened. And we're kind of in a situation right now where things are backwards. We've got cameras that are just looking at every single license plate that are going by. We've got cameras that are creating a dragnet of every passerby, every license plate that goes through to a third party. And that's perfectly legal. But to catch somebody in the act of running a red light, endangering people on the street, endangering other road users on the street, that's something that we can't do. So this legislation hopes to fix that, hopes to reverse that, and I'm very proud to have filed this with my Senate partner, my senator, my friend, Senator Will Brownsberger, who's been working on these issues for longer than I've been in the legislature, and I really appreciate his partnership and his friendship.
Thank you, Steve. I so appreciate your advocacy in the House and our partnership. So I'm Will Brownsberger. I'm the state senator from a district that includes a good chunk of Boston, also Brighton and Fenway, and then Watertown and Belmont and West Cambridge. I am a regular cyclist commuter. I also commute by foot, occasionally by car, but I'm mostly on the roads and out there on the roads as a vulnerable road user. And I think that there's kind of a kinship among cyclists and pedestrians and parents who all feel vulnerable to those great big masses of steel that are rolling around on the streets at high speed that may not see us and may not be able to evade us and keep us safe. So we're all together in that. It brings us close together, and we're also united occasionally by sorrow as we see people lost, whether they're friends, fellow cyclists, fellow pedestrians, children. So it's a very serious thing that we're about here. And I'm grateful to MassBike, wonderful coalition, and all the other organizations that are involved in putting this day together. Because and we've been working together on these issues for now many years, really, for as long as I've been in the legislature, almost 20 years now, but about 12 years ago, we kind of came together and identified this issue as a priority, and I'm grateful to those who are making it the highest priority now. At the time, it was along with other priorities, the cell phone ban, which we've done, the general vulnerable road users bill, which we've done, 4-foot passing lanes, slower speed limits, truck side guards. There's more to do on that. We're on that. But a lot of the agenda that we mapped out 10, 12 years ago has happened, but this is the big opportunity. And I'm really grateful to everybody who's coming together to make it a priority. I want to appreciate Senator Crichton, who's represented here today as chair of the Senate Chair of the Transportation Committee, has made this a priority. I want to appreciate Senator Moore from Worcester, who's making this a priority, working with us on it. Senator Jalen's not here, but she's been a great partner in this. And there are others that recognize the importance of, hey, a little bit of enforcement out on the roads. I mean, it's ridiculous when you stop at a red light and then you see. I stopped at a red light when I was driving one night, not too long ago. I stopped at a red light. The red was full red. I was at a stop, and I pulled out to go around me to cut off the left-hand side. So if you're a pedestrian or a cyclist, you gotta like stand there for a few minutes to make sure everybody's like done. That's got to end. This is a real safety priority. And the good thing is a lot of motorists are getting it as well, which is why I think this bill is starting to have the critical mass. The perception of a lack of enforcement has really, I think, widespread now because the problem is so widespread. And so I think we're at a good place. I'm grateful to all of you for coming here today and getting ready to advocate for this because your voices matter. Every going to the office of your legislator and telling them that this matters to you does make a difference. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the movement to keep us all safe. And thanks again to the organizers and my staff and Steve and all the great partners that we're working together. Next.
I'll take it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I should have mentioned, speaking of cameras, we are recording today. So this is a two-party state. So you all now are aware that this Teams recording will be available afterwards too. So that if there's others who couldn't join today or you want to see some of the presentations again, we'll make this available for everybody after the fact because we know that advocacy does not just end today. And a small point, I really appreciated the Senator's story about a personal example. This is a really good style for when you are going to the offices. Think about roads in your district. Think about times in your life that matter, that are real, where traffic dangers have really affected you. So this is the great go there and a good segue from the Senator to mention what matters to these reps and senators. I'm going to pass it off to Emily Stein and Families for Safe Streets to talk a bit about the human cost of traffic violence on our roadways.
Thanks, everybody. We are a team. We are Families for Safe Streets. We've left some information at the desk because we are a group that was launched in September to support to represent, to speak, and gather people who have been impacted by traffic violence. Whether you are a survivor, whether you are an advocate, or whether you have lost somebody. We are all here because we have lost somebody who is dear to us. So I'm going to pass it off to Laura to start the presentation.
Tell about your dad.
Okay.
Why did you?
I'm here because my dad, Howard Stein, was killed by a distracted driver in 2011. We had some posters. We'll have more pictures in the slides of all the people we know personally, whether they were hit and killed because of a speeding driver, a red light runner, or a distracted or impaired driver. Our main message is this is a bill that needs to be passed into law because it will change driver behavior. Whichever town or city chooses to put, a camera up in their municipality, this will change behavior, and we have to do this. Drivers are we're losing the run of ourselves. So we'll all share a piece of this presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My daughter Emily was 24 when she was killed in Philadelphia. She was a cyclist, killed by the driver of a private sanitation truck who was not held accountable for killing her. I'm a co-founder of the Philly chapter. My husband and I have since moved to Massachusetts, and we are making Massachusetts roads a priority as well. So we know that speed kills. Over 30% of all traffic fatalities in Massachusetts involve speeding. And intersections, yes, please, thank you. Intersections are deadly. Nearly 1/3 of all serious injuries occur in intersections. I think everyone seems to forget that as soon as they get out of their car, they become a pedestrian, a walker. They're vulnerable. I think we need to remind them of all that. So automated enforcement is something that we advocated for out in Philly. Roosevelt Boulevard, called the Boulevard of Death. We advocated for speed cameras. Since their implementation in 2020, 50 lives have been saved. That is the estimate. That is what the numbers show. Why would we say no to this technology? And the technology is the only way we will get to zero traffic deaths.
So we thought it was important because some families could not come all the way into Boston today. Some might not live in state anymore. But we wanted to focus on several people who were killed by speeding drivers. Jack Lanzalotti and Jessica Campbell, this was in 2014. They were just appreciating the sunset on the Esplanade, and they were walking back, and a speeding SUV not only ran a red light, but sped so hard that he hit another car, which hit them in the crosswalk. He was a BU grad, real Boston locals. They lived in Brookline. He grew up in Shrewsbury and worked for the Red Sox for 7 years. So everybody, this whole community was devastated by 2 losses. And when we talked to the mother, she was saying, I could be, we assumed they would get married, they'd have grandkids, and this was stolen from them. We'll hear from our Worcester chief and sergeant in a little bit, but Worcester had to declare a traffic violence emergency 2 summers ago because 2 13-year-old girls were hit while crossing the street. Gianna tragically was killed, and Ayun was in a coma for 24 days. And I imagine that she will have lasting injuries for the rest of her life. And again, this is just because a car was speeding on a neighborhood street. And we'll pass it to Alexa.
Hi everyone, my name is Alexa Gomberg. I'm an organizer with Families for Safe Streets. I'm also a graduate student at MIT. I'm here today because of the strength of the incredible 3 women behind me. And because about 1.5 years ago, my best friend who I've known since we were 12, was hit and killed by a truck while biking in Cambridge. I pass that same intersection every single day. I passed it today while biking. And Minty was actually the second of 3 cyclists killed while biking in Cambridge in the summer of 2024. Kim Staley was killed on June 7th in a very similar crash. And John Corcoran, who you see in the slide here, was killed on September 23rd. We have some beautiful pictures showing his life here, his passion for cycling, and his son, Jack, who I've worked with on a number of occasions, and who's also demonstrated incredible strength telling his story. Thank you all for being here, and I urge you guys, if you hear of crashes of people affected in your districts, please let them know about this organization so that they can also benefit from the strength of this community as I have.
These flowers are from the World Day of Remembrance, and you know, every flower represents someone who's lost someone very dear to them. I know for me, my daughter Sydney, she's age 5. We were crossing the street, an intersection less than a block from our house. The intersection I went through every day, many times a day with my daughter. I've had her and my son, and she was hit and killed by a semi-truck. And she would be here today if we had these cameras, I believe. I think it would have changed the behavior in that intersection. And I know every day there are people who feel the same pain, where their loved one would be here if we had these safety cameras. They change behavior, they make people act safer at intersections. People aren't speeding, people are looking. They don't want to get a ticket. Cameras do set the expectation of safety within a town, and make sure that streets are for people walking, people on bikes, and not for speeding cars. We have the tools, and we can get to 0 deaths. We just have to implement the tools. I know besides the safety cameras, one thing that's important for so many of us is some of this truck safety, getting that expanded. If the truck that hit Sydney had any of the safety gear required now for state vehicles, she'd be here. She would be here with me. It's about education and behavior change, and we need to give the communities the choice. We're not forcing any community to implement these safety cameras. This is going to be the choice of every town.
If you have somebody dear to you who has been impacted by a traffic crash, please feel free to come up and take a flower and bring it with you. These were from World Day of Remembrance, and every November we gather at the steps of the State House to say we can do better and we must do better. And just the last pitch for all of those who are in the media or talk about these incidents, we just want to make sure we remember to say crash, not accident. These are not accidents when we know the drivers were speeding on a high-risk road, that they were running a red light, that they were looking down instead of at the road. These are crashes and they are preventable. So I'm going to introduce Casey, who is a UCLA law student interning with MassBike, and she's been incredible at looking at this law and how it will impact all of us.
Everyone at Families for Safe Streets. It's really important to remember why we're here. So my name is Casey. I grew up in Hamden, Massachusetts, and I'm a legal intern. It's an exciting internship to be here speaking with you all, to be here as part of change that happens in our state, and an opportunity to really make our streets much safer. So I want to just go over some of the nuts and bolts of the bill itself and why it's so important. In Massachusetts specifically, the data shows, we already know that speeding kills, but speeding is a primary factor in about 1/3 of the motor vehicle fatalities in our state. And it's a leading cause of the preventable crashes in Massachusetts. So this bill, I don't know, let's see, we can go to the next slide. So it's really important to know that this bill gives local municipalities the option to put in the safety cameras. It's not a mandate on a town or city level. They can choose which intersections they think have been hotspots and they want to enforce and change the behavior. And so the violations that are going to be enforced are speeding, red light running, in the school zones and blocking the box, getting stuck in the intersection. Because the bills are pretty far in the legislative cycle, have really tried to fine tune the language of it to be responsive to the community needs. So as it's already been mentioned, the cameras will only capture the license plate data from the rear, and there's specific language to make sure that it's not capturing people's faces and identities. And it's more similar to automatic tolling. There are limits to how the data can be used. It can only be used to enforce these specific violations. The cameras aren't on all the time. It only takes the picture when there is a violation, and it can't be shared or sold otherwise. And the fines are minimal. You know, this law is in place to proactively try and get people to change their behavior as they drive around on the street. So the fines only start at $25, and the net revenues, they don't go to the municipality or the camera companies, it goes to the transportation fund. It directly will feed into making our streets better, to redesigning them to make it safer for these vulnerable road users. And we know that safety cameras are a proven countermeasure that works. Some of the studies from other cities around the US, like Maryland or New York or DC, that have had these in place, have shown that they can reduce speeding 20 to 70% and also reduce the crashes and injuries, especially those most dangerous, fast, high speed, high velocity, fatal crashes. At red lights specifically, they show that there are reductions in the red light running. If people have a big sign in front of their face that says you're on camera, you're going to receive a citation. If you run this red light, they change their behavior. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration found in particular that speed enforcement can reduce the crashes by 30 to 40%. That is a huge amount, and people on the roads really need this opportunity to be safer, to feel like they have mobility to walk around their towns and their cities without fear of being hit by a car.
I want to send also a quick thanks to folks, the reps who have joined us as well. We have Rep. Mobley and Rep. Decker in the room here, and I believe Rep. Cruz is online. So I really appreciate your leadership on this. It's super important that this bill moves in the House. So as many representatives who can really push this forward, we really are grateful for your leadership. So I'll pass it back to Emily to introduce our team from Worcester.
So next up is Chief Saucier and Sergeant Foley from the Worcester Police Department. We felt it was so crucial for legislators specifically to hear from their own municipal police officers who are on the streets, who are seeing what's out there and seeing all these drivers that they just don't have the resources, the time, the funding to stop. You would be busy all day, 24 hours a day, if this was your job to stop speeding and red light runners. So thank you so much for making it in today.
Good morning. My name is Paul Saucy. I'm the Chief of Police in the City of Worcester. I come before you today to show my support for the Automated Road Safety Enforcement Bill, S.2344. I would like to also introduce Sergeant James Foley, who commands our Traffic Reconstruction Unit, who can give you a boots-on-the-ground perspective as to why this bill is so important, especially as law enforcement nowadays throughout the country, particularly in the Commonwealth, they're struggling with trying to hire officers and also to retain. On the way here, I got an update. I'm down 58 officers, 58. That's huge. When we're running to 911 calls, it leaves very little time to enforce traffic violations. Now, Sergeant Foley will give you a boots-on-the-ground perspective.
Good morning. My name is Sergeant James Foley with the Worcester Police Department. I've been a police officer since 2006. Since 2012, I've been a certified crash reconstructionist and currently supervise the crash reconstruction, commercial motor vehicle, and traffic unit. Over the course of my career, I've been involved in the investigation of more than 100 fatal and near fatal crashes I have testified as an expert witness in multiple fatality cases and also teach crash investigation for the Massachusetts Police Training Council. I share my background to explain why these issues matter to me so deeply. The testimony you will hear today about traffic crashes is not abstract. These are horrific scenes I have responded to, investigations I have led, and devastating notifications I've had delivered to families. In recent years, we've seen a clear shift in driving behavior. Drivers are more aggressive, and there are more vehicles on the road today, and people rely heavily on navigation apps to estimate their time of arrival, but they do not account for crashes, construction, or congestion. When delays occur, some drivers attempt to make up that time by speeding or running red lights. Those decisions often happen at major intersections, and intersections are where the consequences are most severe. Traditional traffic enforcement has become increasingly difficult. Police departments across the Commonwealth are facing staffing shortages, and our primary responsibility must remain responding to 911 calls for service. That leaves limited opportunities for consistent and proactive traffic enforcement. In the city of Worcester alone, there are 208 traffic cameras, or not traffic cameras, but traffic signals. Of those, 175 are owned by the city and 33 are owned by Mass DOT. Effectively monitoring even a fraction of those intersections through traditional enforcement is simply not feasible with the current staffing and resources. Even when resources are available, enforcing red light violations at major intersections presents real challenges. There's often limited space to safely observe violations, limited room to pull over moving vehicles, and significant risks to officers, drivers, and pedestrians when stops are made. Traffic stops at busy intersections can also further disrupt the traffic flow. Camera enforcement helps address those challenges. It allows municipalities to hold drivers accountable without placing officers in dangerous positions and without impeding traffic. It provides consistent enforcement at problem locations, even when officers are responding to higher priority calls elsewhere. Unfortunately, I have seen firsthand what happens in when dangerous driving goes unchecked. I've made multiple death notifications resulting from drivers speeding or running red lights. Just last fall, a driver accelerated to beat a red light and struck two pedestrians in a crosswalk in the city of Worcester, killing one of the pedestrians and injuring the other. Both of them were from Ireland. They were visiting, and unfortunately, one of them didn't go home. Those are preventable crashes. This bill gives municipalities practical tool to improve safety at high-risk intersections, reduces serious injuries, and saves lives without expanding police stops and without compromising privacy. From a law enforcement's perspective, this is a responsible and effective way to address a public safety problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. I'm going to pass the microphone next to Mayor Dick Wilson from Somerville to speak a bit on the municipal leadership need to have this camera enforcement enacted.
I want to thank you all for coming out. I wish we didn't have to be here for this. I wish this was something that already was on the books, but it's important that you're here, and it means a lot to me. I want to thank Senator Brownsberger and Rep. Owens for their leadership on this. I want to thank the members of the state and House who are here and who sent staff. I want to thank the Healy Driscoll administration for pushing this forward too. That's really important to have someone in the corner office who wants to see this happen. I have been fired up about this for a long time. I was they tell you when you run for office, pick 2 or 3 issues. As a city councilor, safe streets are one of the things I ran on. So I've been all in on this. I've been a member of the Route 16 Traffic Calming Coalition in Somerville. I came inches away from being in the same situation as the folks you heard up here earlier talking about a family member who'd been lost to traffic violence. I was at a city council meeting in February, and I got a text that my older daughter, who's a freshman at Somerville High, on her way home from a soccer game at Dilboy Stadium in Somerville, had been struck by a driver crossing in the crosswalk with the light in an intersection we had just redesigned, right? We hear how the built environment is that's the top way to change this and make our streets safer. We did that, right? This intersection was redesigned just a year or two earlier. right? Now, driver blew through a red light, ran over my daughter's foot, knocked her to the ground. It could have been so much worse. We know how lucky we were, right? Luck is not a strategy for traffic safety, right? The next person may not, probably will not be so lucky. And that's why we have to go out there and give municipalities the tools that we need to make our streets safer. We need this. There's an epidemic of unsafe driving out there, right? We see it. People are just doing things that you never saw before. There's a total disregard for the rules of the road out there. As you heard, our police don't have the numbers to go do that enforcement themselves. We need consistent, that's the reliability of knowing that if you break the law, if you speed, if you run a red light, you're gonna pay a consequence for that. We need that, right? This is not about money. As you heard, municipalities aren't set to get any funding from this, right? And I would love if the funding at the state level goes down to zero, because that'll tell us people stopped breaking the law, right? Yes, there are concerns about privacy, especially in the immigration climate we're in, right? As you heard, it's addressed in this bill, those concerns about what's going to happen with that data. Yes, there are concerns about equity, where these cameras are placed, right? And that's why making sure that we put them in locations that they belong, where we're not going to target a member of the community, is also important. And the fine structure that you saw also shows it's not going to be, it's not going to be adding thousands of dollars to someone's insurance, right? This is a common sense. I just keep coming back to common sense. This is common sense. We need to make this happen. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank everyone who's behind this. Let's make this happen.
And I think from the last two speakers, you're really understanding this is a municipal empowerment bill. I think it's one very important thing to bring to all these conversations. That this is not a mandate. This is not requiring any municipality or any road to have this. This is just allowing a municipality, if they do so choose, to have this sensible traffic enforcement. So keep that in mind. I also want to thank Rep. Bertolo, who's stopped in the room, and the high vis over here, and Rep. Garbley, if I didn't say hi yet. I'm glad to see the rep there as well.
Not everyone should have to dress like this.
Thank you. We have two more points of presentation before we send you off to the rest of your day. I do want to invite Mark Schildrup up from AAA Northeast to talk about how this is taking place in other parts of the country. And then we'll hear from Vero Mobility traffic camera companies. So if there's any questions about how this has been happening, we have folks who are part of the industry here to address any questions. So I'll pass it up to Mark. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much to the traffic safety partners here, Senator Brownsberger, Rep. Owens. I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to speak today and provide AAA Northeast's perspective on this bill. Automated enforcement can be a really effective tool to prevent crashes and fatalities, but a successful program has to be carefully implemented. So at AAA, we have a long history of studying and reviewing automated enforcement plans across the country, as well as in our territory at AAA Northeast, which includes New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Jersey. Some of these programs have been in place for decades, with success in changing driving behavior and reducing crashes and fatalities. So together with traffic safety partners like the Advocates for Highway and Auto Safety, the Governor's Highway Safety Association, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, and the National Safety Council, we created an automated enforcement program checklist for both red light cameras and automated speed enforcement. So this checklist that we refer to, it gives municipalities and government entities with guidance and best practices that work to ensure a successful program. This includes public buy-in and guarantees that the technology is only used for traffic safety purposes in places with documented safety concerns. And in terms of success of automated enforcement, so IIHS did a study of red light safety cameras in 19 states, and it shows that crashes decline overall, and crashes with injuries have been reduced by 19%. So these figures will actually improve over time as more vehicles on the road today come equipped with technology such as automatic emergency braking. So any rear end crashes that occur because somebody's trying to stop in time and not get that camera violation, well, the rear end crash that occurs as a result of that, not only is the speed been reduced, but over time, even those crashes may
eventually be eliminated. A March 2025 study of speed cameras and their expansion from 2019 to 2021 to address the surge in speeding during COVID-19 in New York City showed a 14% reduction in crashes, with cameras becoming effective within 6 months. And over time, a 75% reduction in speeding tickets issued over the length of the entire program. And over 30 years, the red light camera program in New York City, so they were pioneering this many decades ago, it has reduced red light running violations by 73% since 1994. And the city's seen a 65% reduction in deadly T-bone crashes. It's also seen a 49% reduction in rear-end crashes. And in Connecticut, we've seen recent success with a speed camera program in construction zones. And that's demonstrated similar results with immediate impact on driving behavior, an immediate reduction in speeds. And as the program continues on, the compliance and reduction in speeds actually become more and more apparent as people become more aware of the program. So we really applaud this bill and their sponsors for including many of the suggestions that we include in our checklist for a successful program, which include a robust public awareness campaign, signage, a warning period, and revenue dedicated for transportation. So at AAA, we have a long history in other states in our territory with successful automated enforcement campaigns. We've also seen some significant challenges and setbacks for some programs. So we're really pleased to be part of the discussion around this important issue and look forward to continuing the conversation with traffic safety advocates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And I think it's important to really emphasize this is a big coalition that is supporting this. We have AAA, we have affected families, we have bicycling advocates, we have folks who are really just trying to make our roads safer. So as you're taking this back to the offices, really do keep in mind there's a strong push here from a multifaceted gem of advocacy organizations on this. For our last bit of the presentation, I do want to pass it to Tristan Mesley-Ellis, who is going to represent Vero Mobility and be able to take any questions as well about how the cameras are working as well out there around the country.
Absolutely. Might have a few slides from going in the right direction.
I think the other way.
Okay. All right, let's see if I can figure this out. If not, it's fine. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Tristan Mesley-Ellis. I'm the Manager of Strategic Partnerships for Vero Mobility. We are the worldwide leader in automated traffic enforcement. But I want to be very, very, very clear. The majority of my career I spent as a legislative staffer before joining the private ranks and representing Vero Mobility as a contract lobbyist, and then coming on and working internally. I share that background not so that you can add me on LinkedIn, but so that you can, understand that this is something I truly believe in. Traffic violence is a cancer to society. We all, as it was previously mentioned, we all become pedestrians at some point. No one owns the roadways. Drivers don't own it. Bikers, walkers, runners, crawlers, no one owns it. And what's most important is that the roadways and the streets themselves are safe from door to door. Currently, as you know, your state has legalized school bus stop arm enforcement, and which allows for school buses to have a camera placed on the side of them. So when they stop and the stop arm comes out, the recording begins, and if a vehicle drives through that stop arm, a person receives a violation. All 351 of your municipalities have the opportunity to opt in on this. And so what we have done around the country, Vero Mobility, is enact programs that truly, truly, truly make for door-to-door. I say door-to-door because the moment that you leave your door until the moment that folks walk back into their home door, they are safe. We have programs in New York City, DC, many of the other areas. With that, and I am going in the right direction this time, what I want to talk about is privacy. I know that's a major concern for folks. And so this is an example. This is not in Florida. As you can see, this vehicle has snow on it, although as the recent weather has been, it might be Florida. What's important is that you can see that the camera, you can't tell who's driving, you can't tell what's happening inside the vehicle. The most important point of this And we like to call these a violation package. And we call it a violation package because there's a photo, as you can see from behind, there's the zoomed in photo of the actual license plate, and then it also picks up the make and model of the vehicle. This information can only be accessed in a encrypted back-end system that we have. That is the only folks that are allowed in are the professionals who are hired to verify that this violation took place. This person was speeding. And so that's a real person. I want to be abundantly clear. This bill and folks that wrote it did an incredible job to ensure that real people review these violations. I say that because there are folks and organizations and companies out there that will do this with AI. AI is cool for making those weird Facebook images. It is not cool for confirming violations and changing behavior. This automated enforcement, full stop, changes behavior. So it's incredibly important that actual humans are reviewing this. This is a two-step process in which it's reviewed. So either law enforcement themselves, if the municipality determines that law enforcement are the reviewers, or the traffic professionals, maybe in a Department of Transportation or some type of agency like that, they would log in and they would see this and they would review it. The other piece that I did not include, this includes actual video. So both the reviewers and the violator can log in and see that they were speeding, because no one, if you ask them themselves, thinks that they speed. However, when they review the video, they see themselves speeding. They see themselves going through the red light. They see themselves driving around the school bus stop arm. They see themselves blocking the box. They see themselves speeding in the work zone. This is not an opinion. The video speaks for itself. Another thing, I keep going back, I really like that picture. I included this piece in there just so that folks understand how the process goes. I'm gonna quickly go through it. A driver drives through, we're gonna use the school bus stop arm as an example. The stop arm is extended. A driver drives completely through that stop arm. The image is captured. The video is also captured. This goes uploaded immediately into our system. Real humans at automated enforcement company A will review this. Another real human will review it again. They did not speak to one another or communicate. All that happened is human number one said, this is a violation. It goes off to human number two. They don't know that this was confirmed already. Human number two confirms, this is a violation. This package then goes to the actual municipality. The municipality, again, it may be our sergeant or our police chief. They may have a deputy review this. They will confirm that this was an actual package, that this was an actual violation of speed or red light or whatever the incident is. There are instances, though, where the police chief may see the violation and notice there are 3 ambulances behind that vehicle. And in front of the vehicle, there's an officer telling them to drive through that school bus stop arm because this is an extenuating circumstance. And so they will kick this back or kick it down and say that was not a violation, and the person will not receive a ticket. But it is not likely that that happens, although there are some extenuating circumstances. And then the notice is printed and mailed out to the violator. They receive it. And they go about, they can log on themselves and just say, hey, I remember that day, I'm a jerk, I'm just gonna pay this and own up to it. Or they might say, you know what, I'm gonna appeal this and go through the adjudication process, which leads me to another important point. That process of appeal is up to the local municipality. They may determine that the appeals process will be overseen by the local PD. Not many of our municipalities around the country do that. PDs, as the chief had previously mentioned, are already up to their necks with work. And so it typically goes to like a traffic court or a local administrative judge or bureau like that. And again, we provide a lot of guidance on these as the rollout takes place. We, and I can only speak for Vera Mobility, and I'm not a salesperson. it is important that whomever these municipalities choose to oversee their programs isn't one that just drops it off like a box of Lego and walks away. It's important that there's hand-holding and that folks stick around, like myself and my colleagues, to ensure that the program is enacted and that it works. Because anyone who heard me talking very loudly before this program started today will have heard me say, if this program fails, no one's going to blame automated traffic enforcement company A, B, C, D. They're going to blame the legislators. They're going to blame the town managers. They're going to blame the mayors. And folks are going, and unfortunately, it's not going to lend itself well for automated enforcement around the country, which truly changes behavior. And the next one is, I just wanted to show really quickly the citizen services. As I mentioned, an actual person can log in. There are actual apps that, an app that there would be for the state where folks can just log in, see the violation and pay it themselves, and appeal as they will. Again, another event capture. I wanted to show again, just important, the technology automatically blurs out. You cannot see into the car. We don't know if there's 7 people or 1 person driving, black, brown, or white, or otherwise, which is very important in terms of privacy. Speaking of privacy, this data is shared with no one. I can speak for Vero Mobility. 1, the state law does not allow it. But again, companies can be jerks. Not Vero Mobility, it's a publicly traded company. We just cannot, and no other company should be able to. It's important that there is an incredible high threshold of trust of citizens and the actual folks that are providing and leading this program. And then another event capture, I guess I love those. Last but not least, I know there was a concern for municipalities in terms of reports. There's going to be reports that are due that the legislation requires biannual, outlining camera statistics, how recently have the cameras been, or how frequently cameras are calibrated, which cameras have a high use of violations and which ones have low, why and why not. Again, I can only speak for our background, over 300 report opportunities, and other companies should have a few as well, but there are over 300, and that's important because when that time comes, the people truly want to know, and the folks that this has impacted, they want to know that this is real and that this is not all made up. And so there's an opportunity through existing reports that can be pumped out. And then this is just a few of the sample reports that can go. It shows volume by speed. It'll show what we call super speeders, those folks that are doing plus 15 over. And so then, police chief, you and your team may notice that on Main Street and Ellis Avenue, there's a consistent amount of super speeders between the hours of 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Thursday through Friday. Well, guess what? You can station an officer there and so on, and your resources are spread specifically instead of spread wisely when you folks need to be responding directly to calls. And as it was previously mentioned, and something that's so important with this bill, it decreases that police interaction, allows folks to truly be fighting crime and doing what they need to do, responding to 911 calls, as opposed to sitting on the side waiting for something like this to happen. But these are a few of the sample reports. And then last, but this is truly not least, local community engagement. Full stop. If that's not a part of any program, if folks are not doing that, then do not bring them into your municipality. That is so important because this is not a gotcha program. I'm talking multilingual engagement. This program should include at the very least, a 30-day warning period. So if it's legal in Worcester, if it's legal in Methuen on January 1st, we'll say April 1st, for there to be red light cameras, then from April 1st through May 30, folks should still get a ticket for a violation if they go through the red light. They still get it in the mail. They can still see it online, except instead of it being $25, it's $0. And what that does is it starts to change behavior. It's a true warning, and that changes folks. But it's also, again, multilingual, press conference, engaging civic, elected, clergy, all of those leaders, meeting people where they are. I know I'm up on time. I'm gonna be standing off to the back at some point. So if anyone wants to engage, I have about 37 business cards with me and tons of time. But this is something that really changes behavior. I oversee the largest program in the country, which is New York City. There are over 3,000 cameras in that municipality. School, there's bus lane, anything that you can think of, they have, and the behavior has changed. It's changed so much that folks are actually using city buses again along 14th Street, where the speed prior to the pandemic was on average approximately 9 miles per hour, and now it's closer to 22. We have a speed limit of 25, and so we want to make sure that there's public trust and folks are using it. I really appreciate everyone for your time and your belief in this, and thank you to the legislators. Thank you for everyone for attending, and most importantly, thank you to the Family for Safe Streets. You have been a partner everywhere we have gone around this country, from California to New York.
We're also happy to take some questions if anybody wants to stick around, but I do want to pass it off to Representative Senator to kick us off because we are pretty much out of time, and those who have meetings, go and please grab the one-pagers. If you are from an office, we'll be swinging by. This is something that we need to keep on the front burner, so I'll pass it off to Will and Steve to round us out. Thank you.
So that was a lot of great information, and I hope it was helpful to everybody. There's one thing that somebody asked me as we were standing up on the side there. It's like, we have cameras all over the place. Why do we need a law for this? Here's the thing. Well, we're not legalizing cameras per se. What we're doing is creating a new enforcement mechanism. Today, if you have a moving violation, the police stop you, identify you, and give you a ticket. You know, that runs to your identity personally. In this new world, as you see, we have no idea who's driving that car, so we can't issue a ticket to a person, so the ticket runs to the car, like a parking ticket. That's the difference. That's why we need a law, in case somebody was wondering that. Go out and tell people how this makes a difference to you. It's an emotional thing about the safety on the roads. Share that emotion in a respectful way, of course, and your legislators will hear you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. I want to thank Peter Polignano from Medford, who snuck in between the last time we made announcements. As the Senator Brownsberger said, go out and tell your stories. Politics, I mean, runs as much on stories as it does on anything else. We all have, that's one of the things that I've noticed throughout this process is, you know, people, every time I talk to people, they say, oh yeah, people, you know, I see drivers run that red light at the end of my block every day. And when can we do this? When can we start? What, is it ready? Can we do this now? That's the kind of questions that I'm getting. I'm not getting, people are ready for this. So go out and tell your stories, tell them to your legislators and their staff. If you get to talk to staff, believe me, don't feel disappointed that you didn't get to talk to the legislator. The staff is actually often the person you want to talk to because we are pulled in 1,000 different directions and rely on our staff to give us the great information and to tell us, relay your stories to us. So thank you so much for coming out here. Have a great day, and let's get this done. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.